Hello, Middle 3. Here we're going to discuss the main points of the answers to the questions of the revision sheet. So, question 1, quotations. The quotation is: "It's unbelievable to me that you people can't take care of yourselves and your children." This statement was said by the Marquis to the mob. When did this happen? When the accident happened, when his carriage passed over the Gasper's child and killed him. And then you need to provide me with more explanation. Explain the situation, please. So you need to tell me that his carriage passed over Gasper's child. He didn't care about him, and the only thing he cared about was his horses. After that, he only threw him a gold coin as a prize for his son. The theme represented here is the theme of oppression and injustice, and this shows that the Marquis is an oppressor. He's merciless, cruel, mean, and hard-hearted. You can add more adjectives if you want. However, the mob were passive, submissive, and scared. This is for the first quotation. So these are just the main points. You need to provide explanation and write this in a paragraph form. As for quotation 2, the quotation says, "I would accept any difficulty to help you and those you love." Of course, this was said by Sidney Carton to Lucy Manette. He said this while he was promising her that he was ready to sacrifice his life to save her or somebody she loves. And you need to mention the promise. This shows that Sidney Carton's love is unrequited love. Unrequited means one-sided. She doesn't love him back. And this reveals the theme of love and sacrifice. You have to mention the theme represented. This shows that Carton is an aimless person, disappointed. He wasted his life. You can add more adjectives if you want. But for Lucy, Lucy is understanding, sympathetic, and sensitive. Finally, the technique revealed here is the technique of foreshadowing. So this promise foreshadows the real sacrifice of Carton to save Darnay's life. Okay? Let's move to quotation 3. Let's read it together. "If the end comes while we live, I hope her husband stays out of France." This was said by Monsieur Defarge to Madame Defarge. When did this happen? When the spy was trying to trick them, and he used his final trick, the last trick of the spy, whose name is John Barsad. What was this trick? He told him about the marriage of Lucy to Charles Darnay, or the new Marquis. And Monsieur Defarge fell for this trick. The theme revealed here is the theme of loyalty and friendship, because Monsieur Defarge is really loyal to the Manette's family, especially Dr. Manette. He was his servant. And also he had an inner conflict. Monsieur Defarge had an inner conflict between his love to Dr. Manette and his loyalty to Dr. Manette, and at the same time, his hatred towards the Marquis and the whole Evremont's family. Moreover, there's also the theme of revenge. The common people want to take revenge on all the aristocrats, especially the Evermont's family. What does this show? This shows about Monsieur Defarge's character, that he's loyal, he's strong, determined, and alert. While Madame Defarge was vengeful, cunning, and cautious, she didn't really react to what happened, and she wasn't affected by what the spy said. And of course, you need to provide more details and explanation. Concerning the short notes, in the short notes question, you need to write about Charles Darnay. So whatever character you have to write about, you need to include some adjectives and examples on these adjectives. So adjectives describing Charles Darnay: he's wise, gentle, diplomatic, smart, responsible, honest, and thoughtful. So he's also the nephew of the Marquis of Evremont. He was accused of treason in the first trial, if you remember, in England. He's against the system applied by his family, and we notice this in chapter 7, in the conversation between Darnay and his uncle, the Marquis. He loves Lucy, and Lucy loves him back. And he looks like Carton only in the appearance, but the characters are totally different. He worked also as a French teacher in England. Let's move to Mr. Lottie. Mr. Lottie, he's loyal, supportive, and reliable. He protected Lucy and took care of Dr. Manette. He works in Telson's bank and he's very loyal to the bank. And he advised Stryver not to go to the Manette's house when he wanted to propose to Lucy, if you remember. So now we're done with Mr. Lorry. Let's move to John Barsad. Who's John Barsad? John Barsad was the spy. And you need to describe his appearance when you write about John Barsad or the spy. You will find it in chapter 11. His real name was Solomon Pross. We know that he was his Miss Pross's brother. So his real name is Solomon Pross. And he was a witness against Darnay in his first trial, if you remember, when Stryver disqualified his testimony by the help of Carton, of course. And you need to mention his tricks, the tricks he used to against Monsieur Defarge and Madame Defarge. But Monsieur Defarge fell for the last trick. Okay. Concerning Madame Defarge, she's witty, cunning, sly, determined, and daring. She uses some secret signs like knitting, and you have to mention its significance, which is the list of destruction. She uses cuffing in order to convey some messages, and she used it in the very first chapter when Mr. Lorry and Lucy Manette entered the wine shop. And the rose she pinned in her hair when the spy entered the shop. She seems not to notice anything, but actually she notices everything happening around her. She dared to look the Marquis in the eyes after Gasper's child accident. She's obsessed with revenge because of what happened with her family. So this was Madame Defarge, and you need to explain, of course. Let's move to the themes. The first theme you have in the revision sheet is the theme of revenge. The theme of revenge was represented or revealed by three main characters or three main situations. The first one is Gaspard, when he killed the Marquis to take revenge for his son. The second situation is Madame Defarge. And for Madame Defarge, you have two examples. The first one is knitting. She used to knit the names of the aristocrats they want to take revenge on. And she wanted to take revenge for her family because of what happened with the Marquis and his brother. The last one is the common people versus the aristocrats. The common people were oppressed, they were very hungry and poor, so they started a revolution against the aristocrats. But their revolution was very cruel, bloody, and violent. So that's the theme of revenge. The other theme you have is the theme of love and sacrifice. Concerning love and sacrifice, you have two kinds of love. The first one is the family love. The second one is the romantic love. The family love is represented by Dr. Manette towards Lucy. It's the kind of a fatherly love. So Lucy loved and cared for him until he's back to life. As for Miss Pross loved Lucy. This kind of love is the maternal love. She brought her up like a mother, and she was anxious about her when she had many suitors. And she was ready to sacrifice her life for her, and this is what happened in the end when she became death. As for the romantic love, we have Darnay towards Lucy. This kind of love is mutual, and Darnay promised Dr. Manette that he's going to tell him about his real name on the marriage day, and also Dr. Manette promised not to tell Lucy anything against him in case he made sure that Lucy loves Darnay. The second example is Carton towards Lucy. This kind of love is unrequited, it's one-sided. Lucy doesn't love him back. And we need to mention his promise and the sacrifice, his sacrifice in the end. Okay? Now, let's move to the comparison. In the revision sheet, you're supposed to compare between Carton and Mr. Stryver. So, Carton is the jackal, while Mr. Stryver is the lion. As for Carton, he's reckless, he's disappointed, rude, drunk, aimless, and add as many adjectives as you want. He does all the work, He's very talented, he's very intelligent, but he lacks courage. He's jealous of Darnay and he loves Lucy. He pities himself and he wasted his life. Of course, he feels it's too late to change. He underestimates himself. As for Stryver, the line, he's snobbish, rude, arrogant, rich, and selfish. He takes all the credit and fame. He's concerned about the physical appearance of Lucy. He's not concerned about her character. He doesn't love her. He always reminds Carton of his failure. He overestimates himself and he has a materialistic point of view. He lacks intelligence and talent, but actually he's very courageous. Finally, we move to the technique of foreshadowing. In your revision sheets, the last question says, the time would come when blood would flow in the streets of Saint Antoine. Refer to the technique Dickens used in this statement and provide more examples from the novel. So, these are the examples you have on the technique of foreshadowing. First example is the shining weapons which brighten Saint Antoine Street. These weapons foreshadow the cruelty of the revolution, and it was really very cruel and bloody. Second example you have is the barrel of wine scene and the word blood that Gaspard wrote. This foreshadowed the revolution and the blood of the aristocrats that's going to be running on the same street. Third example, the storm and the rush and roar of the rain foreshadow the coming revolution in France. Fourth example, the sunset or the darkness that fell on the great building of the Marquis. This foreshadows the death of the Marquis. Then we have Carton's promise. Of course, it foreshadows his real sacrifice in the end to save Darnay's life. Madame Defarge saying to the road mender telling the road mender about the fine birds and the tearing of their finest feathers. This foreshadows the cruelty of the revolution. Finally, Madame Defarge said to Monsieur Defarge that Darnay will go where he is to go and will die as he is to die. This foreshadows Darnay's return to France and being sentenced to death by the guillotine. And then Carton replaced him, of course, as we know. So these are the main points concerning the answers of the questions of the revision sheet. Please revise them and provide more explanation. And you need to write all of this in paragraph form. You have to write it all in paragraph form. Thank you so much.